morning. Thank you. This is Debbie McManus, Director of the Early Education and Support Division. Welcome to the California Department of Education Child Care and Development Fund State Plan Topical Public Input Sessions. I want to thank the 9 regional county offices of education and superintendents for helping to facilitate this statewide meeting. Public input is an important part of the process, and we at CDE appreciate you taking the time to share your comments with us. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Marguerite and the Policy Office.
All right. Well, I just want to thank everyone as well for being here this morning, both the California Child Development Administrators Association, CCDAA, for helping us secure a lot of the satellite hosts, and all of the satellite hosts for, frankly, volunteering your day and helping CDE support these sessions today. In the past, the CDE has only offered these opportunities right here where we are in Sacramento, so we're really glad for the assistance locally and regionally to offer these around the state, because we know not everyone is able to travel to Sacramento. And I also want to thank all of the participants who are in the rooms across the state today, and those of you that are prepared to make public comment today. Thank you. Okay, so today, just to let you know on the process, and we'll try and move quickly to allow as much time as possible for your actual input. I'm going to go through a few slides of information, both about the Child Care and Development Block Grant, quickly what it is, what the CDE's timelines are for submitting our state plan, and other information. And then for each topical session that we're having today, I will go through what the relevant CCDBG law has to say and where it exists, what California Education Code has to say currently about that part of CCDBG law. The next thing that'll happen, go ahead. So just a process point, if anyone has a question from one of our satellite locations, if you could mute your line and send your question through the chat box. We have a lot of staff here that are ready to answer your question and help you as needed.
You need to make sure the volume on your computer is completely turned down as well, please.
All right, I just want to let folks know that these are input sessions today and that the California Department of Education will not be sharing the actual draft of the Child Care and Development State Plan. The reason for doing this is because the state plan hasn't been written yet, and the reason that the state plan hasn't been written yet is because we need all of the public input in order to inform how we're going to write the state plan. Just a reminder one more time to please mute your phones so everyone can hear things well. Okay, thank you. But we want to assure folks that today is meant to be more of a brainstorming session and an opportunity to provide input. No decisions have been made yet at the state level in terms of what implementation of the reauthorization of CCDBG will look like. Okay, so at this point, we ask that our satellite hosts please, through the chat box, send the Department of Education the head count of how many people wish to provide public comment in your room. You may have more people in the room that are just listening, but we need to know how many people in your room would like to provide public comments, and we'll do a quick listing here at CDE and determine if we can allow folks to have the amount of time that they want, or if, because there's so many people, we may need to limit the time for your input, but we will follow up as soon as we have head counts for those that want to provide input. So then, once we have the head counts, we'll let you know how much time each person will have to speak, and then we'll go in alphabetical order of the satellite site. You see it there on the screen, and we'll call you out one at a time and let you know that it's your turn to provide input. Okay, when the location is called, the satellite host will type the name of each presenter into the chat box, and CDE will call that person's name, and then they can come forward to the speaker and present. Please keep in mind today that this session is being recorded, as well as it will be transcribed once we receive the recording. And so if there's something you didn't quite catch today, or if you have a colleague that wasn't able to attend, this information will be posted on CDE's website. If you happen to bring written comments today, please send them to the email address you see on your screen. It's stateplan@cde.ca.gov, but please note that there's no A in plan. It is not the satellite host's responsibility to collect the information. We please ask that you send it directly to CDE to make sure that we receive your input and that it is considered. There is always opportunity for public input at any time, so please know that you can send us a letter, you can send us an email, and you can even send it as a fax. This information is also on our website, so if you're trying to scribble furiously for this information, it's already up on our website, so you can get it after this session is over today. Okay, so just a brief overview of the Child Care and Development Fund. The California Department of Education is the lead agency responsible for administering the Child Care and Development Fund in California. However, we work very closely with other state agencies in California who support the children and families served by CCDF, and stakeholder and provider and contractor and parent input is deeply important to us as the CDE administers this program. The goals of the CCDF are to increase the availability, affordability, and quality of child care services. Additionally, the goals are to improve child care and development of the participating children and improve the number and percentage of low-income families in high-quality settings. So the development of the state plan takes some time, and we want to back up to where we started. The federal law was reauthorized actually before this timeline begins in November of 2014. The CDE at that time held a public hearing in January for public input, even though it was new and newly reauthorized. In late January of 2015, the federal government released what's called the preprint, and all the preprint is the template or the form of the state plan. It's the blank form that all states have to complete. In February of this year, we held topical sessions in Sacramento for all of the areas of the state plan, and today in our presentation we'll go through some of those notes for those input sessions. In June, the federal government released a revised version of the preprint, and it was open for public comment. That public period comment closed in July. Based on those public comments, the federal government submitted a second version of the preprint. That was available last month in September. And then here we are today on October 8th having a second round of topical input sessions. In December of this year, the CDE will release a first draft of the 2016-18 CCDF state plan. And please note that the feds may release their final version of the preprint at that time. So the template that we're working from may change again by the federal government, and we hear that that may be released in December. Additionally, the federal law changed in November of last year, but the Office of Child Care is promulgating regulations to help implement and clarify that law, and the anticipated release of the first draft of those regulations will be in December of 2015. The CDE plans to submit the revised draft based on public input to the Legislature and Department of Finance in early January. We will have a second public hearing on January 12th, and more information will be on our website about that second public hearing. We also plan to have satellite locations around the state, much like today, so folks don't necessarily have to travel to Sacramento. And then our state plan, based on revisions, will be due to the federal government, the Office of Child Care, on March 1st of next year. And if all goes according to plan, our state plan will be approved in June of 2016. So I'm going to dive into the 12-month eligibility that we're here for today. So the federal law, and the citation is at the bottom of this screen, states that lead agencies must demonstrate how low-income working parents are protected by ensuring a 12-month minimum period of eligibility regardless of changes in income or temporary changes in the working, education, or training status of the parents, as long as the family's income does not exceed 85% of the state median income for a family of the same size. Our California Education Code touches on 12-month eligibility, and this is just one part of the Education Code where it exists. A family may receive child care services for up to 12 months on the basis of a certification by the County Child Welfare Agency that the child care services continue to be necessary, or if the child is receiving child protective services during that period of time, and the family requires child care and remains otherwise eligible. This time limit does not apply to the family's child care referral if the family's child care referral is recertified by the county child welfare agency. In addition, our Title V regulations go into 12-month eligibility. I'm not going to read this entire citation here, but you can see that the recertification period for some families is 6 months, and for other families it may not exceed 12 months. In addition, this Title V regulation 18102 talks about that families have to notify the contractor within 5 days of any changes to family income, family size, or need for services. And you'll see a note at the bottom of the page. There are other similar Title V regulations, particularly for the CalWORK system or for families and vocation-related activities that are also listed here. This by no means is a comprehensive review of what California law has to say on the issue of 12-month eligibility, but we wanted to give you most of the citations that related to this topic. As I mentioned earlier this year in February, the CDE hosted topical input sessions related to all topics in the state plan, and so here are very brief notes from that input session, so in case you weren't there, you can understand the gist of the conversation. We heard loud and clear from those that participated in February that there was a desire for continuity of care for families. Many of those that came that day believed that moving towards a true 12-month eligibility in California would result in a reduction of administrative costs. One theme we heard again and again was that it could mean that you only need to have care and be eligible on one day of the year. Another quote from the day was that everything the CDE does with alternative programs will have to change if we move to true 12-month eligibility. And many that participated that day also felt that there needed to be provisions to prevent fraud. So we're going to move towards the public input in just a moment. Again, no decisions have been made how California will move towards 12-month eligibility. We certainly want to hear what folks today have to say. But here are some potential options. It is clear that there are some parts of state law that will have to change in order to implement the block grant. But I will also say that there are many Title V regulations which the superintendent and the CDE have the authority to change. And so it is very likely the CDE will promulgate regulations. I want folks to note that the CDE does not plan to move forward with promulgating regulations until we have the final regulations from the federal government. Because we don't know yet what they're going to say, sorry, we have a leaf blower outside our window, so I apologize if it's hard to hear. I think he's moving on. The CDE does not want to have to change state law or regulations twice. And so we are going to wait until the federal government finalizes their regulations before the CDE starts any regulatory changes. Some other options the CDE is considering is revise the recertification frequency. We certainly plan to advocate for additional funding to support more families and support more families for a longer period of service. But one question we have for all of you today is if there is no additional funding and families are truly certified for 12 months with no reporting or recertification in between that 12-month period, do you anticipate that there will be longer waiting lists if the state moves in that direction? So we want to leave you again with the slide that talks about opportunities for public input beyond today. And in just a moment, we're going to put everyone on hold for just a minute to determine how many people we have that want to speak today and let you know how long each person will have to present. So we'll be right back with you. Thank you. Okay, so I know that our satellite hosts are sending in as quickly as they can the number of people that want to participate. It looks like most folks will have the liberty to speak as long as they would like, within reason today. We want to make sure everyone has a turn, but we'll go a little bit out of order based on who's ready to go. And so Marin County was one of the first that offered that they have 7 people in the room that would like to present. So Marin, please be prepared to go first. And go ahead and chat and type in the name of those that will be speaking so we can have a record, and we'll call them out as soon as we receive the name. Thank you. Okay, so in Marin County, we have Phil Warner from Children's Council. Please go ahead and provide your comment.
Good morning. Thanks for the opportunity to provide comment. I would like to start off by saying I would like to advocate for true 12-month eligibility when we talk about the concept of 12-month eligibility. And specifically, I mean at the state level, or at least at the agency level, the flexibility to allow child care for 12 consecutive months regardless of any change in activity, whether or not that change is considered temporary or not. I think if we don't go that route, we could be in danger of having a system like we have now, which is 12-month eligibility existing in Education Code, but there are all kinds of other components. The requirement to update within 5 calendar days, the requirement to update variable schedule needs every 4 months, the 6-month required for certification for CPS and other things. So I think that would eliminate a lot of confusion, not only for the agencies, but most importantly for the parents in terms of predicting and knowing an absolute kind of stop date for when their services are going to end. I think that would really do the families and children that we serve a good service if we went that route. I would also like to encourage the department and the division to consider something that I saw in the first draft of the regulations. I don't know if it's in the second draft, but it might be, but the concept of delinking the hours of need that a family is certified for from the exact hours of their activity, to allow for a parent to take advantage of an open slot or to have flexibility in using the child care hours however they felt was best for their family and best for their child.
Okay. Any more comment from you, Phil?
I think that's going to do it for me at the moment. So thank you again for the opportunity.
Thank you. So who's next from Marin?
I think it went through, but you can just center it.
Yeah, good.
Great. So Michelle Rutherford, please go ahead and provide your comment.
So we had a local meeting on this topic that we convened jointly with our local Child Care Planning Council, and we were really excited about the turnout at that meeting. There's a lot of enthusiasm about this issue. Specifically, we had representation from Parent Voices, from our Family Child Care Provider Association, the San Francisco Provider Association, Foundation representatives from Miriam and Peter Haas, representatives from our Title V provider group. and City College, and then our office. And there was a robust conversation about the need to do 12-month eligibility in a real way. California currently has in its plan that we have 12-month eligibility. There was no one in that room that perceives that currently 12-month eligibility exists. And so to figure out a way to have true, sort of the way the state has bifurcated eligibility from need is problematic because it's limiting access to quality. And so there was a lot of conversation, a lot of support in the room for real 12-month eligibility, to reduce the churn of kids in and out of care, which can be somewhat invisible from the outside, but on the ground, providers experience that delinking from eligibility for families on the ground that is really problematic and also administratively onerous. Oh, I forgot to mention our R&Rs and both APs were in the room as well. And agreement about how, from the community college perspective, there was a lot of concern about how families are sent in circles, having to get a lot of documentation that's really onerous from people who don't understand why they need the documentation, and how families or participants fall between the cracks when they're not able to stay eligible because they're finding their classes and then they're losing their care, or they're losing their care and then losing their classes, and just the onerousness of the documentation process is really problematic, and there was general agreement in the room about that as well. Some thoughts about how the continuous reporting for fluctuations in fees then kicks in the changes, and so leveling out, like that the fee gets set and we don't have this constant fee fluctuation because it needs to be aligned with the continuous eligibility and availability for care. There was some talk about, rather than going to the hourly approval, going to a full-time, part-time concept about approval so that children do have access to quality settings. A lot of families get approved only for certain days and certain hours, and that doesn't work for our Title V contractors because they can't earn their contract and they have to cover their full costs during the day, and it doesn't work for vouchered families who then can't access quality child care centers or even family child care programs who can't afford to keep staffed up when they're only being paid for portions of the day or portions of the week. Those were the emphasis. The one other conversation or input that folks had is that, as our understanding is, the federal plan provides some option for alignment with Head Start, Early Head Start, or other local programs, and we would like the state to consider how to do that. The obligation under Early Head Start and Head Start to continue to serve when folks are stacking time or stacking contracts, stacking funding, it becomes really problematic, especially with our Head Start providers asserted as the feds increase the number of hours in early Head Start obligation. So I believe there was something beyond even the 12 months, that there was the possibility for a continuation of aligning time eligibility is something that the state should take a look at. And as an early Head Start contractor, I'm sure you have an appreciation for yourselves in terms of who you're working with in the rural areas. That's all I will verbally comment on now. We will be submitting a written comments from our office over the next month or so. Thank you.
have Mary Ignatius from Parent Voices.
Good morning, and thank you. For Parent Voices, this issue is the top priority. We really see this as a quality issue in terms of establishing real stability and security for the families, for the children, for the child care providers, and for employers, really. What we know is that the economy is changing, and the requirements on working families to work jobs that are on call, the schedules are changing, they are working those jobs, they are going to school, they are doing everything that they can to lift themselves out of poverty, and the child care subsidy is the one piece allowing them to do that. However, the reporting requirements with this subsidy are causing extreme havoc for these families, extreme stress, and this system should be supporting these families and doing what we can to be the one piece of stability in their very stressful lives. And so we really see this provision helping to do that. We appreciate especially that the regs state that regardless of these temporary changes, that these families can keep their subsidy even if they exceed the state median income maximum, but not if they exceed the 85% of state median income. And we believe this is critically important because we have so many families reporting the turning down promotions, turning down raises, scared of what a COLA is going to do, scared of their annual review, and instead of being scared, they should be proud. This is them showing and proving that they're doing a good job and their employer's recognizing it, but instead they're fearful. And we know that San Mateo and San Francisco counties have pilot programs that have been in place that allow those eligibility exits to be higher, and it works for them. And we believe that should be across the state and at minimum in high and medium cost counties. I have a lot of written testimony, so I won't go through all of it. I think we also, while implementing this, this is really an issue. It's, you know, we have 12-month eligibility on the books, but as Phil mentioned, it's the reporting requirements. And so we really need to see this as a reduction in reporting requirements. And we believe that that also means that when these regulations change, the relationship and interaction between the state and the contracted agencies needs to also change so that there's very clear regulation, stipulations, so there's no misinterpretation, and that the agencies don't also feel in fear that allowing 12-month authorizations aren't going to result in them getting dinged by the APMU or by whoever. This really needs to be a holistic, comprehensive change for everybody. And then the last thing I just want to say, you know, it might not be the last thing. Sorry. We hear it all the time, this idea that, well, if we serve families longer, whether it's through updating the income guidelines for the SMI or whether it's this provision to allow families to keep their subsidy longer, then has an impact on not being able to serve families on the waiting list. And we are, frankly, tired of that argument. We believe that in fact, if you take a subsidy from a family who's currently being served to give to another, that family who just got served is going to end up back on the waiting list. And so it doesn't make any sense that we are pitting these families against one another. They're the same families, and they don't want to, the families on the waiting list don't want another family who is stable, who is on their way to self-sufficiency, to lose their subsidy so that they can get it. This is about children being in stable settings, long term. This is about parents being able to have that security. And then lastly, just around documentation, we had parents who met with EESD last week and shared their stories about, what's happening in their lives. And you know, the documentation requirements, especially if you're going to school, aren't simply, you know, a schedule from your college. You need registrar office stamps. You need to talk to your teachers and sometimes have to get sign-offs from your teachers. And these are things that should be private. These are things that create shame and embarrassment for the families. They don't need to be telling everybody that they need a child care subsidy to be in that classroom. The same thing goes for those who are working. We have parents who describe the impact of having to go to their employer over and over and over again to get things signed off, how embarrassing that is, how the employers then kind of look down on those parents because now you're infringing on their time. And all of this is unnecessary, and clearly the federal government sees this as unnecessary. And so we just feel that this should be a no-brainer. This should be very easy. And we stand in partnership with everybody who wants to see this happen. And I'll stop there.
All right. Are there others from any of the satellite locations that would like to provide input? Please type the information to your chat box at this time.
Do I have to type it in? Everyone's going to see that out.
Okay, so we'll give folks another 5 minutes, but if we receive no additional names, then we'll end this session and resume at 11 o'clock for our next session on license-exempt monitoring. Oh, San Diego has a comment? Okay.
No, we have more people.
Yeah, Maureen has another commentator.
Great. We're happy to take you. Type the names into the chat box, and we'll call you one at a time.
Oh, I thought I did, but maybe not.
No, you did.
You did.
It just takes a second.
Okay, we know that Graham Dobson would like to present next. Go ahead, Graham.
Good morning. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words. I just wanted to echo a lot of what my colleagues here in Marin have already said, but I was previously an administrator of a Title V program in San Francisco, so I sort of know some of the ins and outs from that perspective. And I feel that the 12-month eligibility legislation that we have in place right now just is not working for parents and for providers, and especially not for, most importantly, not for the children themselves. The focus in the new, the CCDF preprint really is on access to quality early education experiences for children. And, you know, I feel that if we really did truly offer 12 months of continuous care, we provide, you know, a continuity of care of early quality educational experiences for children. We'd help increase family stability, and we'd reduce the administrative burden that is placed on the Title V providers that have the contracts with the state. You know, a reduction in the reporting requirements would make a huge difference to the amount of work that is generated just by the current eligibility requirements in place. And especially a reduction in the churn of children, that you know, with families continuously losing their eligibility for a change in circumstances, that means that programs then have to re-enroll new families. There's often a period of time that takes. They then have to orient those new families into the program and start the children. And it helps, you know, I think it keeps some programs from fully earning their contracts with CDE because of these gaps in care for families while there's this constant churn of children going through their program. And, you know, I feel that the CCDF preprint does not require states to terminate assistance prior to redetermination at 12 months if the parent loses employment or if they stop attending their job training or education. And I would really just urge that California explore the possibility of ensuring true 12-month eligibility for all families. that once they are eligible on the day that they enroll, they keep that no matter what until their 12-month re-enrollment date is due. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Anyone else from Marin County office?
Hello, this is Maisha from the California Child Care Resource and Referral Network.
Go ahead, Maisha.
I just want to be on the record that the R&Rs are in support of everything that our colleagues have echoed. We just want to make sure that the state understands that that continuity of care is very important for children. Early education and care is the foundation, the groundwork for children's success in life, and providing continuous care for children regardless of if a parent loses a job or has to change classes shouldn't take away from a child's continuity of care. And we just want to make sure that the state understands that you should look at your policies and examine your messages and make sure that continuity of care is valued. And in addition, we want to make sure that that we reduce the burden of parents, of families for providing paperwork during this 12-month eligibility. The 5-month notification of changing a job or the 5-day notification of changing a job or changing a class is a little restrictive. You may get dropped from a class and it may be on a Thursday and you may not be able to notify anyone by Monday. Your child might be sick and you may have other things going on. And so we feel that just reducing the paperwork, reducing the struggle for parents to keep their children in care is very important. And it's also important just for the family. Keeping your child in care keeps you working, keeps you in school, and it makes you feel confident and comfortable that your child is being taken care of so you can handle your other issues. And so we just want to echo what our colleagues have said in the room. We will be providing written testimony that this is a quality issue as well as an equity issue. Our children are valuable and are important, and we need to remember the purpose behind child care is to provide consistent child care, early education for our children, and as Mary stated earlier, not to bump other families because we feel that, we have a certain standard of, a family is stable. Just because we feel a family is stable economically doesn't necessarily mean that you want to kick them off of their services. They still need the continued support. Thank you.
Thank you, Maisha. Anybody else from Marin County office?
Child Care Law Center is going to be here in a few minutes. Can we go around to the other counties and then come back when they arrive?
Sure, we'd be happy to do that. We'll go ahead and move on to San Diego, but we'll come back to Marin.
Sorry.
I'm Jason Olson from the Office of Early Care and Education in San Francisco, and I quickly just want to echo some of what my colleagues said. In particular, I feel like if the state is serious about having its most vulnerable families, allowing them access to high-quality care, the true 12 months of eligibility is really important. In San Francisco, we have a lot of vouchered families that have a difficult time accessing quality child care providers because of the intermittent nature of eligibility with the voucher. Makes it difficult for the administrators of those programs to enroll those children and be able to enroll them in full-time care. So I'm advocating that the state not exercise their option to terminate assistance for non-temporary changes in parent circumstances. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Anyone else from Marin? Okay, we'll still look back to Marin to try and include the Child Care Law Center, but we'll move on for the moment to San Diego County Office of Education. And the first name I have is Julie Burbell. Buberell.
It's Jolie Buberell.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So from San Diego County, Child Development Associates, and here at our county, we basically are echoing what's already been said about the continuity of care for children, but one piece I wanted to add is part of that continuity of care is getting children ready for school, and we haven't talked a lot about school readiness, but in our full-day preschool programs, children are coming and going, and they're not getting the same benefit of the quality preschool program as the part-day preschool program. So my point would be that all families should have that same access, at least for one full year, and they can plan their lives better and hopefully they're not having to make those choices that other commenters have made about not taking raises and that sort of thing. So just once again, we're in total agreement with what's been said so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Jolie. Next, I have Julie Lowen.
Hi, this is Julie Lowen from Children's Paradise, and we care at this time for children that come from professional families. We care for children from early Head Start, state preschool, and we also provide resources for children who have no access at all. I think the problem with the current system is that it requires children to be responsible for job insecurity and economic instability of their parents. And we fail to realize that children don't have income. They ultimately each deserve equal opportunity to a high-quality education. And so the children of professionals, they're not yo-yoed in and out of these high-quality early learning settings. They don't have to miss the costume party on Friday because they lost their eligibility on Thursday. They don't have to miss out on the space party because they've worked for the last 2 weeks to put together all of the planets and they've learned everything about space, and then they lost their eligibility and suddenly they don't get to go and they don't get to come and see their friends anymore. The current system creates inequality, and it discriminates against children based upon decisions that are made by their parents or situations by their parents. There has to be a fundamental shift of focus from regulations which leave families scrambling for care and create stability for children. A system which is designed to provide stability for children and to provide the support for early childhood education is going to deliver all children into kindergarten healthy and ready to learn. It is absolutely unfair that the children of professionals have stability while our state system currently supports a completely different world for children coming from other types of families. And I really strongly urge the state to start seeing children as children and start coming in and helping to create that equality that our country was founded on. Thank you.
Thank you, Julie. Next, I have Abby Scholl.
Hi, this is Abby Scholl from Child Care Resource Service in San Diego, and we just want to go on record for echoing support of a true 12-month eligibility and need, that stability and continuity of care requires an examination of how those hours are determined, and to simplify requirements for variable schedules and students. And we discussed the possibility of looking at seeking employment and how that could be expanded into a 12-month program or extra hours. That's all.
Thank you. Anyone else from San Diego County Office of Education?
Yes, this is Lucia Garay from San Diego County Office of Education. And the input that I have on the 12-month eligibility actually has to do with the median income. And we truly believe that the state needs to adopt a real-time median income base for our state prior to determining what that cap is going to be, whether it will be still placed at that 70th percentile with whatever percentages the state decides, but we absolutely need to have a real-time base for that median income.
Thank you. Anyone else from San Diego?
No, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lucia. Okay, I know Marin has additional participants, so who's next from Marin? Please introduce yourself.
Hi, this is Anna Levine. I'm Senior Staff Attorney at the Child Care Law Center.
and apologize that we were late in arriving. We would echo the support for a true 12-month eligibility provision. What I would like to emphasize is what is a reframing point. We really shouldn't be thinking about that so much as a 12-month eligibility provision as a reduced reporting provision, because you could have any length of time as your time length for eligibility, but if the parents have to report every 5 days, if the contractors have to give a snapshot every 30 days, then it's meaningless. And so I think that what we need to look at are all the regulations, and we've drawn them out and can provide that feedback to CDE that do that, and rethink how we are gathering information that's meaningful and start thinking about a real 12-month snapshot of information, which means simplifying, as others have pointed out, the reporting on variable income. It means looking at the reporting for and in general on income and on work schedules. The other thing, and then there's some specific areas like with services for homeless children, which is another provision of the requirement of the Reauthorization Act, where there are service limitations that we will have to look at. The seeking permanent housing limitation currently limits services to homeless children, and the seeking employment should be coordinated, so you have that 90-day job search, both coming in and going out, and we can actually extend the period of time that that we can invest in quality in programs and that kids can receive stable care. Thank you, Anna. Anyone else from Marin?
Yeah, this is Andy Garling from the Alameda County Early Care and Education Program, and we operate the local Child Care Planning Council, and we have been meeting monthly with our contractors for many years, and 12-month eligibility has been at the top of our priority list on our public policy platform for many years. In our high-cost county, like many in the Bay Area, the only way to really make it work to operate a state program is to blend with Head Start funding. So we've had a whole list of efficiencies and policies that would help make our state programs look a little bit more like our Head Start programs, and increasing eligibility time would be one of those ways that we could do that. You know, Head Start, as we all know, has an even more generous policy which supports developmental continuity even more, and having true 12-month eligibility would be one step in the right direction that our contractors fully support.
Thank you, Angie. Anyone else from Marin?
That's everybody.
Thank you so much. I'm going to do a going once, going twice for the rest of the state. Please type information into your chat box if you have additional presenters, or also please let us know if there's no one else in your room that would like to present. While we're waiting for that information, I will answer 2 questions about process that have come up through the chat box that I'm sure others would be interested in the answers. So the first question is, would promulgating regulations, and I'm assuming you mean at the state level, be complete before the September 26th deadline? Meaning, can the regulatory process be swift enough to meet the date? So we anticipate that the federal regulations will be available in December, but that will be a first draft open for public comment, and so it is unclear when those regulations will be final. When they are final, and to the extent CDE it's within our jurisdiction to promulgate regulations on those subjects, we absolutely will, but CDE won't begin promulgating those regulations until the federal regulations are final. And so CDE is poised and ready and willing to make the regulatory process work as quickly as possible. But in all fairness, I will say it is unlikely that regulations will be final and adopted by September of 2016. The second question is, when does the comment period for the current preprint due? We will post that information on our website as soon as possible when we post the transcription and recording information. But the information is also available on the Federal Register, but we can provide that as well on our website. Okay, so we have no other public comments coming in through the chat box. Again, thank you everyone for coming today. If you're interested in staying for the other sessions today, at 11 o'clock we will begin our topical input session on license exempt monitoring, and at 2 o'clock we will begin our session on professional development. Again, thank you again to our satellite host and everyone that came to participate today. Have a good morning.